Super BS. Ooh, it is I, the spooky and lovable baby boy Brank, coming at you from the spookiest month of the year, May. And I am joined by the horrifying, terrifying
Josh.
Ah! Everybody's so scared by that.
Yeah, I got no nicknames today. I'm just like, I know I've had 3 weeks to come up with like the best nickname, whether it's like a new metal singer or a company CEO. I've been
Could have done that, man.
playing too many games. Been spending more time on games than nicknames lately.
That is really stupid of you, actually.
Yeah,
you should have been
seriously.
spending way more time on nicknames than games. Of course, everybody knows that's the most important thing. We haven't talked to you guys for so long. I think we last time we checked in, Doge was insanely awesome. It still is, even though it's taken quite of a plummet as of late. Are you still heavy in Doge, my friend?
Yeah. So I mean, honestly, man, I should have cashed out when it was like 73 cents.
Nope. You got to hold, man. You got to keep it.
I know. Well, so here's what I did. What I did was I sold some GameStop stocks. You know, I had 5 shares. So I sold some of that, and then I ended up with about 4,000 Doge.
Nice.
And so after that started tanking, I cashed out some of my Doge to get into Ethereum Classic, and I bought a Bitcoin SV.
Oh, I don't know what Bitcoin SV is. I know there's like Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin SV. I've never heard of this one.
Yeah, Bitcoin SV is the one. It's like the lowest one right now, but it's gone up by like $150 in the past week. So
oh wow,
figured I'd jump on that while I had a chance.
Yeah, man. Well, as you know, this is Super BS, podcast about super Bitcoins and shit. That's what the S stands for. We actually don't talk about video games. That's the thing we don't do here. We hate them.
No,
we don't love them.
We retired from video games. So we had a dance with role-playing games, and then we're like, it's not working anymore, so we're just going to go into cryptos. Yeah.
Yeah, man, we're a crypto company. Everybody's all about that. We can get you guys on the blockchain if you want. We're selling our NFTs. We're doing all that stuff for you guys. We're selling NFTs of us dancing. Those are going for $2 million right now. Get them up to $3 million. That's what we're talking about here on Super BS. But no, we have actually been just spending some creepy time with RE Village. We've both been playing that like mofos. There's a lot of other stuff we've been playing, but let's start with Village, man.
Hey, speaking of NFTs, I'm sorry, this is totally random. Did you hear Red Hot Chili Peppers sold their entire song catalog? And it's I don't know. Everyone's like classifying it as an NFT sale, but they sold their whole catalog for like some millions of dollars.
So does that mean just somebody owns it, like the people who own the Beatles, like the Beatles music? I want to say Michael Jackson owned the Beatles music.
Yeah, exactly. So they sold their whole catalog. I guess Bob Dylan did it too. So like people, these bands are using their songs, I guess, as like quote unquote NFTs, and they're just making a butt ton of money on them. But they still get to like sing them and stuff, I guess. But they can't like.
So I'm curious though if it's actual NFTs or if they did what the Beatles did. Because what Beatles did was they sold their music catalog to, if I'm correct, Michael Jackson. So he got any money that was made off of sales of those. As far as I know, I don't know the exact contract.
Yeah, and I think that's how that works. So I mean, they would have to go through the buyer now if they wanted to put a song on like, you know, another Guitar Hero or something.
Well, because the difference between NFTs and that old contract was NFTs, those are free for everybody. Mm-hmm. You own them, but you will get nothing from it. Outside of being able to sell it, you don't get to license it. You don't get to do anything with it. Well, so if it's an NFT, then it just means you are the actual owner, but you cannot do any of the business moves with it. You could sell it again, but the original owner actually gets a profit too. That's my understanding from NFTs.
So that's weird because Kevin Smith made, I mean, that sounds right. But I know Kevin Smith made some film that he sold as an NFT, but he also sold along with it the distribution rights to it. So I don't know. It seems like they're all over the place. I don't even think the people who sell and make NFTs know what an NFT is. And apparently Sega's making an NFT of Sonic or something.
All I want to say is if any of you 8 listeners are one of these crazy millionaires who have $69 million to drop down the toilet on stuff, please contact us. We can sell you a bridge, okay? I will sell you a pre-made bridge. Don't worry about it, and I'll charge you very little, $1.
Yeah, the
$2.
ones that cars drive over, right? Bridges.
Yeah, I'm not gonna tell you what type of bridge it is, but I will say we'll sell for a few mil, okay? And then you can make jokes about with your friends or whatever, like the people who bought that NFT for $69 million because they wanted the number 69. This is the type of future I love living in, where people have so much disposable income that they use it as jokes. But to get back to actually less terrifying than that stuff, RE Village, man. And before we begin about talking about it, I want to just say I dig it. I love it, and it shipped over 3 million units right now. So it's not even a week old. It's not even a babe yet, and it's already got that 3 mil. What do you think about this game, my man?
I'm enjoying it. I mean, I don't know if I'm as far as you are, because you had said something about what zone, like what area are you in? Like what part of the game are you in right now without spoiling things?
Yeah, we'll keep it spoiler free. I'm in the second. Just so there's not like a ton of. This isn't a big spoiler because it's something you can read everywhere. There are 4 zones in the game. We'll just call it that. So I'm in the second of 4 zones. The game is creepy enough that I have trouble playing it at night, but it is so much fun that I pretty much want to play it always. So, I think the shooting is great. I don't know what type of... I mean, this is no spoiler, I guess. I don't know what type of guns you're at, but it has the traditional, pistol, shotgun. I haven't got anything super crazy. If you played RE4, there was a sniper rifle in RE4, so I don't feel bad saying there's a sniper rifle in this game. I don't know if there's other secretive weapons. If there are, whatever, I'm not going to tell you in the future. But yeah, so far I have 3 weapons. I think there are much more than that. But
okay, yeah, because I have the handgun and the shotgun right now. So I just defeated the second of the 3 daughters.
Yeah, those are pretty fun fights. They're not really complicated. They're just kind of like enjoyable little like, oh, okay, there's a slight puzzle, and then I fight them. I find the shooting to be pretty good, and I honestly I am loving the ammo scarcity in the game in terms of there is enough ammo to pretty much always fight without problem, but you're not like struggling. Like I tried playing some more of Resident Evil 7 right before this came out, and I really enjoy that one too. But oh my goodness, the ammo scarcity in that game is like not fun.
Yeah, so that's actually what I was going to say. Like I love this one because it's not... Resident Evil 7 was stressful.
It's crazy stressful. It's scary as can be, and you also have never enough. So I get that that's what some people want. They want that type of I'm struggling on top of being scared. But for me, I want to have a little bit of terror, but I'm more of a thriller person than I am a horror person.
Right. Okay. So that's the point I was going to make. You're in this game. So again, Resident Evil 7, the ammo is scarce, and you always have somebody following you in that game, it seems like. So
maybe I haven't gotten far enough into Zone 2, so I don't know if that's a thing in all of the zones or if it's just in the first zone.
No. Okay. So no, I'm talking about Resident Evil 7.
Resident Evil 7.
In that game, you always had somebody or something following you, and that gives me anxiety. So you can't
loot comfortably or explore, which is part of Resident Evil is also exploring, and it's just not. I don't know. I think that mechanic is neat for a short period of time.
Yeah.
I hate it when it's did you ever you played RE2 Remake, right? We talked about that quite a bit.
Right, yeah.
The most annoying things I had was when Mr. X was literally blocking me from doing stuff, and I just had to run in circles and do stuff while he chased me, you know what I mean? It was fun for a moment, but it got old when it's I just need to pull this thing, but he's right here. Okay, let me run up and go around.
Yeah, that was that part where you're in the hallway, and you have to hit the switch, and you have to hit another switch before he kills you. That was stressful. I had to stop playing the game for a few weeks after I did that part because it was just too much. So getting back to Resident Evil 8, this is what I like about this. Yes, you have the tall lady following you around the house, but she's not always there.
No, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like she just like surprises you, and you can get away from her easy enough, but you do take some damage. And she's not like, I don't know, she's not like terrifying, if that makes sense. Like she's a fun bad guy.
I think a lot of the reason why she's not terrifying and she's so easy is because it's essentially like having Shaquille O'Neal follow you around a house. It's a giant person. You could see her from like any part of the house for the most part. And one thing I will say is the animations are wonderful. I love how she ducks to go through doors. Like there's multiple scenes where I think that stuff's neat because she's supposed to be like 8 feet tall. Before we get too deep into this, what is your history with Resident Evil? So all of the listeners know what we're talking about. And I'll talk about mine a little bit.
So I've been in and out of the Resident Evil series over the years. I started with Resident Evil 2 on PlayStation 1. Yeah, so that game was like the ultimate like thing with ammo scarcity. I think I remember like finding cheat codes for it eventually because I was tired of running out of ammo.
Okay.
I didn't play Resident Evil 3, didn't play Resident Evil 4. I jumped back in at Resident Evil 5. Didn't play 6, played 7, and now I'm playing 8. I tried to go back and play Resident Evil 0, but that one was, I don't know, it's just not...
It's considered the worst from what I've heard.
It wasn't very fun, didn't capture me right away.
6 is the worst, but RE0 is pretty bad.
But yeah, I mean, I have enjoyed like the transition the series has made over the years, going from third person to first person, and while it still like remained scary as it was back in the day.
Yeah.
It's I don't know, I feel like it's more playable now.
Yeah. The controls are a big reason why it was scary back then. You just couldn't move away from enemies very quickly.
And that's a big thing too, is that like you were, as a kid though, like you were willing to put up with that because you're like, oh, this is so cool, I'm playing the new Resident Evil, it's rated M.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
like,
my experience is fairly similar to yours. I did not actually join in on the PS1, so in that way it's different. I started with the GameCube. I played Resident Evil Remake when it launched on GameCube. I own 0. I actually never turned it on, but really what got me in was 4. 4 was my first one where I actually played through it, beat it, loved it. I played 5. I actually didn't finish it. I thought it was pretty fun, but I just never thought it was that great. So I got like probably 75% through it.
Yeah, it's a very linear game. Like there's not a lot to explore. Like it felt more like a Devil May Cry game because it was like you need to go from here to there, and you only have one way of getting there.
Yeah, it's a third-person shooter, and I didn't have a co-op partner to play with. So in that way, it was just not super interesting to me because that was what it was designed for, was co-op. I owned 6. I never played it. I played the demo and was like, this isn't for me. I finally got around to 7. I played both RE2 Remake and RE3 Remake. So I have like a fairly good grasp of the whole series because I've played like an hour of 6 in total, and I've played pretty much all of them besides 0. But yeah, I haven't finished all of them. Like 7, I'm only still at the beginning, and RE Remake, I never got through the first half because that's a crazy hard game. But yeah, I love when they balance the action and the scares right. Like I feel like RE2 Remake for me is like a pinnacle game. That was my favorite game that came out that year. I think Village could be very close to that in terms of like, this might be my second favorite because RE4 was my favorite years ago, but I've tried going back on one of the multiple re-releases and it just doesn't hold up as well. It was incredible for its time.
Did you ever get a chance to play any of the like side stories, like the Umbrella Chronicles or the Code Veronica or any of those ones?
I never played Code Veronica, even though I think I owned it on something. I think I owned it on 360. So I might have turned it on for like an hour. I did own, they had what is it called? Not Outbreak. Let me see.
Like Revelation. I think there's like a series called Revelations or something like that.
So I had Outbreak 1, which was the PS2 online Resident Evil series where you go around with 4 players. But I didn't have the internet or the PS2 adapter, so I played that single player.
So I loved that game. You were like the kid who still had LAN parties because he didn't have the internet?
Yeah, but we didn't have LAN parties either. So I just played that game single player. Looking through this, I never played any of the shooters, which I think were Survivor and maybe Umbrella Chronicles. I've played a little bit of Revelations. I played a little bit of Revelations 1. I tried it on Switch. I could not get into it. I don't like the structure of it very much, to be honest, because it keeps bouncing you between two stories. I like it when you kind of explore an area.
Wasn't there on Switch, there was a rail shooter Resident Evil, wasn't there? Like it came with a gun. Is like Resident Evil like Outbreak or something?
No, Outbreak's the one that I was talking about where you do online. I think that one's called The Umbrella Chronicles. Yeah, that's the Wii shooter, which I think is a sequel to Survivor. Yeah, it looks like Survivor is also a light gun shooter. So I'm looking at a list right now. So yeah, I played a few. I never obviously got that terrible, what is it called? Is it Raccoon City or whatever it was? Remember they had like a third-person shooter that came out like maybe 5 years ago that was supposed to be garbage. Never got that. I've skipped a lot of Resident Evil games, but I feel like Capcom after Resident Evil 7, which is when I feel like everything turned around. That's right after that they released RE2 Remake, then RE3 Remake, and now we're on Village. I feel like they've come back to making good games again. Like they had like a good period there where what they released was bad. Like it wasn't fun, wasn't good.
I don't think they knew where they wanted to go with the story. Like it was, I'm surprised they've been able to like keep it going as long as it has and still tie it into the existing mythology. Because like with this game, you have Chris Redfield, right? And then Leon makes an appearance every once in a while in other games. I feel like it's much like the Assassin's Creed games. They just didn't know where they wanted to go with it, so they just kind of went everywhere. But now I feel like, with these remakes, they have a clear path, an idea of what they want to do. And I'm not far enough into Village to like say, oh, hey, there's a plan here. But so far, the story has been pretty solid.
It's just been enjoyable. It's beautiful. It's like one of the few next-gen games where I felt like, oh, man, I can actually see that maybe this wouldn't have been possible, in this quality, because obviously it's on Xbox One and PS4 as well. But I'm thinking like maybe it wouldn't have been this good if we didn't have this next-gen console. So, it's really beautiful. I'm digging it. I can't wait to get further in. Like, I'm just like loving it. Like, I think the combat is also a lot of fun. Like, I feel like the shooting's pretty solid. Whereas, like, I did not like the shooting in 7. I feel like either the enemies move too much or your character is like, and it's purposeful. I was talking to Dr. Don about this yesterday. It is purposeful. I think they want to make you feel weak. Obviously, your character now, Ethan Winters, feels more like a military dude and can shoot and do all this other crazy stuff. But at the same point, it's also not fun in a game where you have very limited ammo to also suck at doing everything when there's lots of enemies. That's like not fun.
Yeah, and that was Resident Evil 7 was like that. Like ammo was another very stressful point in that game. But with this one, like, ammo seems scarce, but there's enough, it's like you said, there's enough of it. And you're not stressed out with it, though. Like, when you're shooting your enemies, like, they go down with enough hits. You don't have to, like, and with Resident Evil 2 Remake, the zombies, like, they move about so sporadically that you miss a lot. In this one, I feel like they take up enough of the screen to where you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I'm bashing on 7. I think it's a great game. It is.
For sure.
I'm not like trying to say it's bad. I'm just saying it's those were things that I didn't love that this game is doing well. The difference is, like, if you came to RE from 7 wanting a game that scared you and made you feel uncomfortable, you're not going to get that with this. This game is you very quickly get a weapon, which is one of the things that made 7 so scary, is you did not get a weapon quickly. And I've played as much of 7 as I've played of this, and I only have one gun in 7. This one I already have 3 guns, with lots of ammo for each. They did bring back one of my favorite mechanics from 4. They brought back the briefcase. For those who've been longtime series fans will know what that means. It's like a Tetris-style briefcase where you can fit items and you can upgrade the size of the briefcase. I love that. I always thought that was a great thing. The briefcase itself isn't so small that I've had to worry about being able to pick up anything. I've been able to pick up everything, no problem so far. Especially because they allow you to store the sellable items in a different part of the briefcase, so you don't have to like worry about that. I really dig this game, man. Are you going to try to finish it?
Yeah, no, I will definitely finish, because from what I've heard, the campaig's only like 6 hours. So I mean, I feel like
people are saying 8 to 10, but it's probably not like, I've heard it's 1 hour longer than 7. So that's what it is. So
yeah, I mean, it's short enough for me to justify like spending the time to play all of it. It's I don't know. I haven't, not once have I sat there and like wondered when the game is going to be over or like how long I've been playing. I just kind of like, I feel okay chipping away at it a little bit at a time each night. Like I don't feel rushed to play it. I haven't gotten like tired of it yet. Like there's so much to explore and there's so much intrigue in the game. You know, you walk around, you find like the case files where you see, oh, hey, this is how they made the girls out of the flies, and this is how the vampires and stuff were made. And you hear like the diaries from the people who've worked at the mansion. Like I'm very fascinated by all this. So there's enough in there to not make it feel tiresome, even when you're kind of wandering around the same corridors.
Yeah, you brought up something that I actually think was excellent in the game, because I was thinking about that recently. They have a in my opinion, like almost a perfect amount of lore where it's like just small tidbits that are quick to read, not too common or not too often do you find them, and they're all pretty interesting. Whereas like I feel like so many games nowadays, they have lore dumps. Like, okay, perfect example, Valhalla. Every time I see one of those reads, like, I don't want to read it. It all seems stupid and pointless. Like, I like Valhalla as a game, but all the lore stuff, I just have no interest in. Whereas like this, it's like, okay, yeah, this is really interesting. And they, it's just creepy enough, but it's not like so like grotesque. It's just like, where are the other maids going? Or what did this happen? Or how did this happen? Yeah, I have to, applaud their use of lore, because it's just so well done. I can't wait to get back to it, man. I'm definitely pretty hot on it. There's Mass Effect Legendary Edition coming out this week and a bunch of other stuff that's coming out. I've been playing a ton of other things as well. So it is going to be a hard thing to balance. I know I've talked multiple times about how I wasn't going to get Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Some different stuff's come to light, which we'll probably talk about in news, mixed with like I've seen on sale already. So I'll probably pick that up day one now, just because it's going to be a lot cheaper than I originally expected it to be.
Can I wait before we switch gears? Can I have a question for you? Okay, so or two actually. How do you feel about them mixing like Resident Evil lore with Transylvanian myth, like all that stuff?
I mean, I think it's neat only because, like, I'll be honest with you, if they would have just done basic zombies again, I think I would have gone crazy. I'm so sick of that. Like, and I haven't gotten deep into 7, but from what I understand from 7, there's only 3 enemies. And the ones that I've seen so far, which is one of the 3, are just pretty boring. They're like goop and gook style things, and not that they need to not have that. But I have enjoyed that essentially, without spoiling too much, almost every zone has its own set of enemies. So you're not fighting the same group each time, which is like a blast, like, because they all act slightly differently, even though they have similarities, and they're all pretty fun. And yeah, I'm loving it because, and to be fair, I love the setting in 7 too, that old, like, on the bayou style house. I just am excited that they're trying new stuff, because 2 and 3 were super similar. And I played them both recently, and they're both like Raccoon City, police station, all that stuff. And it's fun, but it is neat to go do something else, to go be in a new place. And I think this city works so well in terms of, like, I want to explore it. It's got a Metroidvania style of progression where you can, like, find items and open up new areas and get to new things. And I guess there's side quests with separate bosses that I haven't unlocked yet. But, like, yeah, stuff like that sounds crazy. You said you had another question?
Yeah, so this new, like, introduction of this Transylvanian lore or monster lore, do you think that this will pave the way for an eventual crossover with Devil May Cry? Because
that'd be cool.
The menu systems all work very similar, and the same thing like when in the merchant system, right? They have a very few items for you to buy, right? So you don't have to like stress yourself out, but you can also upgrade things. Like the upgrade system is almost exactly the same as Devil May Cry, except there's like less to upgrade.
Yeah, so the upgrade system from this is actually ripped entirely from 4. It's the exact same system from 4. So they probably used that when they were doing and I don't know the directors. I know some worked on some games, other ones moved around. So they might have been the same guy. Like Shinji Mikami, who did 4, might have done Devil May Cry, one of them, or whatever. I don't think so. I honestly don't think so. I know you're a big DMC fan, and I know you probably like to see that. But would you like it if they cross these over? And how would you want that handled, since there's such wildly different games?
Yeah, so I don't know necessarily if I would want it crossed over in terms of like story, but I would love to have some kind of like DLC add-on where you could like buy Dante or Nero and have them play through the campaign, and you have your like sword and all that.
But would it still be first person? Would it be a third person game at that point?
That would be a whole like different mechanic, or even just having them play, like having them be playable characters, but it just having the things that they would say, I think would still be fun.
Yeah, I could see that as being neat. I could also see it being neat as if they were like a boss character that maybe walks around and you see them and maybe you fight them and they escape. Like, there's a lot of different opportunities for stuff like that. But do I actually think Capcom will do that? No, because I think it's a neat idea, but I think it might make the two fan bases too angry because they are very, very different fan bases. There's probably a lot of crossover, but those games are like so different. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I enjoyed Devil May Cry, but I've never finished one. I love Resident Evil games. Like, I generally have finished a good chunk of the ones I played. The only reason why I didn't finish 7 is because it was so scary. That's the only reason why I didn't get deep into it.
Same.
I'm finally at the point where, like, it's less scary now, so I can play more of it. But then I'm dealing with what I told you, ammo scarcity, to the point where I talked with Dr. Don. He's like, you got to run back and get the other weapon at this point instead of like once you get this thing versus like fighting these enemies. Because that's what I was planning on doing. And it's like, oh, I can't do that. Anything else that you want to add about Village before we move on to some of these other games? Because I know we've actually played a lot since the last time we talked. And there's a stupid amount of news.
I'm good, man. Unless you have something else you want to say. I think it's a great game. I can't wait to play some more. And
man, I'm there with you. I love that shit.
Gonna be a contender for my game of the year, I think.
Yeah, so far it's been such a weird, pretty slow year. I've heard, we'll talk about some news stuff where there's some rumors that some big things are on their way. But yeah, it's so far I think my favorite game I played this year. I need to like go through a list of what I played. But if Bravely Default 2 was my favorite game, this is for sure my favorite game now because it just hits all the buttons that I like. Let's get to some other stuff. What have you played? We'll each go one by one because I've played like a few other things I want to touch on. Nothing too big, but I want to hear what you've been playing first.
Okay, so I played, first thing on my list, I remember I told you I had picked up Atelier Ryza.
Yeah.
So I played that one. I guess like my big disappointment with that game is that the menu system is one of those ones where it scrolls on the side of the screen or it goes up and down. And you have to match it up with like the diamond at just the right time to do like your attacks and all that.
Okay.
Not a big fan. And I also for such like a prominent RPG series, I would have loved to have like some English voice acting.
Oh, it's just Japanese?
It's all Japanese with subtitles. So like for this one, I can't sit back on my couch and play from the other side of the room because I have to read the subtitles. So I have to pull a chair up in front of the TV so that I can see the very small subtitles. So and because of that, you
can't enlarge the subtitles. That should just be an option.
Right.
Subtitles.
So yeah, and because of that, like I don't know how much of it I'm going to play. Like it's a cool game. Like I enjoyed what I did play, but it's too. I don't know. It's not a very relaxing game, if that makes sense. Like I can't casually lay back and play it. It also like lacks, I guess, and maybe I'm not far enough into it, but it kind of like lacks that big like feeling of consequence for the characters. Like they kind of set it up to where you're just like a bunch of teenagers who go away from home looking for adventure, but you can't save the game from anywhere in the world but her house. Yeah. So if you want to save the game, you have to go all the way back home. And
wait, there's only one save point in the whole game?
Only one save point in the entire game.
Wow, that is horrible. Unless all the dungeons and everything are super short.
So that's what I'm saying. Like it lacks that feeling of consequence that most like RPGs have because you're going home at the end of the day. So it kind of like takes away from that feeling. But again, not to say it's a bad game. It's just not. I think it just might not be for me. I had heard such great things about it, and I can see why people enjoy it, but it just might not be. It might not be my thing.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I'm interested if you play more of it to hear more things about it, but it is like such a niche JRPG like thirst group that likes it. These weirdo like semi-horny anime fans. Not trying to put them in a box.
What are you saying?
I'm just saying like that seems to be the target audience for that game.
Yeah.
I would like to try it as well, but I just haven't seen it for cheap enough. And the videos I've seen make me think like this would be another game that if I bought, I'd play it for I don't know, 2 hours, 3 hours, and then never touch it again. Okay, so to give you a hint of what I've been playing, or a little bit of taste, I picked up Judgment, the Series X version that came out.
Because you had played the original and you had some
PS4,
good things to say about it.
Yeah, I love it, man. I still think it's great on Series X. It does have a huge flaw. Quick resume doesn't work. I don't know if that's based on the publisher Sega's choice or what happened, but Quick Resume doesn't work. So I haven't played it a ton because every time I have to reboot, which doesn't take very long nowadays with SSDs and stuff, but it is still annoying. It's cool, man. I like that game a lot. I prefer the turn-based combat of Yakuza Like a Dragon, which we'll probably do some nitpicking from the news. One thing cool going forward is the Yakuza series from Like a Dragon. That's going to remain turn-based. They just announced.
Yeah, I heard that. That's exciting.
Yeah, I'm stoked, man. I absolutely love Like a Dragon. We talked about that. That was my favorite game last year. That's like an incredible game. It's so much fun. Judgment is really cool. It's, you explore, good Lord, I can never remember the name of that town. You explore this town in Japan. It's like, I forgot the name. Irvine, Japan. You explore the same town. Not Shibuya. I can never remember what it is. But anyways, you explore the name of this place because I played Like a Dragon, which was you exploring a totally different spot of.
And their worlds are connected, right? That's been established?
You mean Yakuza and Judgment? They're same like time frame. Yeah, it's the same exact time frame. It's like the Judgment series is just you're playing a detective, but you still are dealing with the Yakuza and all that stuff. And speaking,
like they share a universe. Though,
yes, it's not like totally different things. Like everything's the same universe. And Judgment actually just they announced a sequel for Judgment called Lost Judgment coming out this September, which will continue the action oriented combat from like Judgment and the traditional old Yakuzas. So like that's cool. So for the people who love that combat, you still have that game and you still go around and collect things. There's still all the side quests that you love from the Yakuza games that you find in both Like a Dragon and Judgment. I haven't got further than where I was on PS4 only because I played it for like 10 hours on PS4. So I've probably only got like 3 or 4 hours in. I've been trying to move through it pretty quick. But it's a blast. I do wish that it had quick resume. I think it'd be way further if I could just turn it on, play for a little bit and turn it off without thinking about it. But yeah, it's generally a commitment every time I play where I'll play. I need to play for like at least an hour or two. It's enjoyable. Can't wait to play more of it. Just haven't got too far. Have you played anything else since we last talked?
So I played Clap Hanz Golf. So I've been reading about this one a lot, and a lot of people seem to like it because it's like a big game, a big golf game series, not series, but it's a good golf game outside of like Hot Shots and Tiger Woods and all that.
It's from the team that made Hot Shots.
Okay.
So, Clap Hanz is from that. That's the developer.
Yeah. I mean, they have similar looks to them. I like it. It's a golf game. It's not like they have, you can play a tournament mode or you can play versus or you can play online with your friends. And I imagine it works the same as like those pool games do where somebody goes and then somebody else goes whenever they are not working or something. So you can play through a game throughout the day if you wanted to with friends.
And you're playing on Apple Arcade, right? I think that's the only way to play right now. Yeah.
Yes.
So it is that company, Clap Hanz, the developer of Everybody's Golf and Hot Shots and all that stuff. It looks neat, man. I really, really hope this Apple Arcade stuff stops. Or there's a rumor I didn't put it in our news, but Apple's potentially going to make a Switch competitor. So like a handheld device. So that's a rumor. I didn't put it even in the news. But yeah, so if that happens, maybe I'll give their games a chance. But besides Fantasian and Clap Hanz Golf, like their Tumblestone or Grindstone or whatever was good. But there's just not a lot of stuff I really want to play on there. And I don't enjoy playing on my phone. We've talked about that infinitely. Do you think you'll continue playing that game though?
I mean, if I get bored and want to shoot some golf, I'll probably play it, but I don't see myself sticking with it. One thing that kind of irritates me about it is the fact that while you can use a controller, so I've been using an Xbox controller, there's still some things that have to be done on the touchscreen on the phone.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's kind of irritated me a little bit.
Yeah, because you're having to reach back and forth between the two, which is really annoying. Yeah, I have Returnal. I share games with my
Okay, so what else have you played?
Returnal. Yeah, so that was the big PS5 exclusive that came out at the end of last month. My brother-in-law and I share games, and he picked it up. I've turned it on. I've probably played about an hour. I am very glad I didn't pay for it. It is definitely a game I don't really enjoy that much. The game handles incredibly well, but it is a roguelike in the strictest sense of the word, where every time you die, you lose everything. There is some progression, but it's not like health or any of the types of things that I like in roguelikes. Yeah.
$70 price tag, was it worth? Do you think it's worth it?
No, not at all. I think maybe for $30 or a PS Plus game, it might be okay. But the other thing that's kind of made it a lot less fun for me is the run times. Roguelikes, you do multiple runs to beat the game. They estimate that the run time is about an hour and a half to 2 hours per run, and there's no way to save at all. We didn't talk about it in the news, but they didn't have a mid-game save, so you have to just hope your PS5 keeps the rest mode working. Yeah. So it's a really hard game to recommend, especially because I could totally see it as a free PS Plus game by the end of this year. Yeah, I think it's a beautiful game. I think the combat is incredibly fun, but for me, that only goes so far. Incredibly fun combat, there's tons of games with that right now. Like, I play Apex Legends all the time. That's an incredibly fun game. Why would I choose Returnal, spend 2 hours with that versus 2 hours with Apex, when by the end of the day, I'm getting a very similar amount of growth? In Returnal, you don't really get any type of growth.
Yeah. Is there anything satisfying about it though?
The gameplay,
combat good?
The gameplay is really good. Yeah. So the movement, the combat, all that stuff is incredibly well made. It's totally a AAA game. It's next gen. If you want something that's beautiful and that shows off your console, by all means, pick it up. If you think $70 is nothing and you just don't care, great. It's really hard to recommend a game where it's like, okay, I died. Can I do anything to make my character better? No. Okay, well, I'll just try to play again. I might die at the exact same point because literally the only way to get better is constantly playing it, and you have to commit to, about an hour and a half to finish a run. So, like, the few times I've played it, I just don't really care, and I just die pretty quick because it's like, I'll just have fun shooting because I don't have, normally I've been playing late at night at around 11 o'clock, and I don't really want to stay up till 2 in the morning playing the game. You know what I mean? So like that idea, like Hades, I liked Hades quite a bit for roguelike. It almost made my top 5 games last year. And one of the things I liked about Hades is the run times were short. They were about 15 to 20 minutes. Early on they were maybe 10 minutes. And there was some progression, some health upgrades, some things that you could do. This doesn't have those things. So in that way, it feels less competent than that $20 game that came out.
So is it frustrating you just for the sake of doing it, or is it a rewarding experience?
I haven't played enough to
stick with it.
I haven't played enough to give you a solid answer about that. Like, I don't know if it's rewarding enough. I just know that I don't want to commit the time to actually figure that out because it requires so much time. That's the only thing. Like, we've talked about this a lot on this podcast, both the previous Super BS and this present one. I hate it when games treat my time like it's valueless. It's like, oh, hey, I don't care. You have 5 hours, right? We're not going to let you save. We're not going to let you do anything. I don't really care what your time is. This is how we made it. So, you want it? Great. Give us $70. That's why I didn't buy it. I'm very thankful I share games, so I'm able to try it. But it is, I can't recommend it, honestly, at $70. Like, unless money is not an object and you just want to show off. Like, I can't recommend it. It's not for me. So, it's weird. I'm sure it's for a lot of people. It's just not for me. Have you had a chance to play anything else?
So I dabbled in Fantasian, just kind of turned it on for about 20 minutes. I'm not really far enough to say whether it's good or bad. One thing that I was not expecting it to be, though, was have a separate battle system, like the old Final Fantasy games, and it's also it switches between, I guess, that third person perspective and being a top down game.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
So that was something I wasn't expecting to happen. Oh, and the it was just not. It was. I guess I was expecting to have that feel of a Final Fantasy game, and it didn't end up being that. But I know it's not a Final Fantasy title, so it's It's fun so far, but it's not like fun, I guess, if that makes sense. Like, it's a cool game, it's pretty, but it's just not. It's not something that I was like, oh hey, I want to keep playing this, because instead I turned it off and played something else.
I would like to try it out at some point, but because of the blockade of being Apple Arcade and being mobile only, I actually don't see myself ever touching it. I would love to. It looks beautiful, but yeah, those trimmings, as good as they all sound, like I just don't have the interest in doing that. It's a bummer. If Dr. Donna was here, he'd talk a lot about his love for Mistwalker and Sakaguchi, and just kind of how much of a bummer it is that there's really no console style or AAA quality games being made from that company, which is a bummer that we're getting these like mobile tiles. Nothing wrong with mobile tiles for people who like them, but I would be interested to see how many people actually prefer to play games on mobile versus like consoles or PC or whatever other more traditional game playing system. Anything else that you've played? I have a couple quickies I want to talk about, but
I finished Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Oh, nice. That's actually what I was wanting to chat about as well, too. I just started the Oxenfordshire, or whatever. I started that Alliance or whatever. I think it's Alliance Quests or what they call the arc, and I'm about power level 90-ish.
So you're getting there, climbing the ranks.
What am I, like 25% through the game, if that?
Yeah, so that's one thing I didn't want to talk about, is the fact that in this game, you have to, in order to get so I haven't done all the order quests, and maybe I'll go back and do that if like some appealing DLC comes out, but I just did the main story. And what I didn't realize is that you have to complete every single Alliance mission to get the end of the game.
Oh, wow. Are there a lot of them? I've only done like 5.
Well, there's a lot, and then there's one that pops up after. So this game has more endings than Lord of the Rings, right?
Nice.
Like every time you think it's over,
but is there a bed scene where they jump on the bed? That's what everybody wants to know. The best scene in Lord of the Rings.
I know, it's still lacking that. But yeah, so you have to do all these Alliance missions, and then when you finally get enough to go like save the brother, you do that, and you're like, oh hey, surprise, the game's not over. You have to do one more Alliance mission, and then you have to go, once you do that, you can go back to Norway and finish stuff there, and then you come back and you do another Alliance mission here. But then you, in order to fully like get the help of a couple of the other people you helped along the way, you have to go back and do secondary quests for them.
Oh wow, okay,
and
that's
then
kind of crazy.
And then you do all that stuff, and then you get some credits rolling, and then it just, I don't know, it just like, it doesn't end, like you get some credits, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're back in the world, and there's like, so you still need to do this, this, and this, and
oh man.
It's just like, it feels like the most disconnected Assassin's Creed game I have ever played. Like, it's so far removed from the game's mythology and lore and like what the game has become known for.
It does feel like a totally different team, like one that didn't touch Origins or Odyssey. I think it is the Origins team, but it doesn't feel like them. It feels like a totally random other group.
It feels like it just like floats on its own island, and I just like, and while there are some things like dealing with modern times, you don't get closure on that end. Like, it's just like, oh, hey, this happened, and then you're just going to have to wait and find out what happens next. And it's just...
To be fair, that Layla stuff has been my least favorite. I didn't like it in most of them. Most of the 3 new ones where you had it, but I think it's the worst in this one. We've discussed that already.
Yeah.
So if they got rid of that stuff, which I think they should... I know they essentially did that for Black Flag or one of them. They just made it like this thing that doesn't matter at all. I think that would honestly maybe potentially help the series. This is getting so bloated and stupid, and it would just be a much more condensed story if they had one specific arc and less of this other nonsensical side. I don't know if it's still the Apple of Eden or the whatever they're chasing this time, but all of their stupid stuff they're doing.
So what I think is happening right now is I think they're trying to like, and obviously if you get to the end of this game, you'll find out, but I think they're trying to find a way to they haven't said this, but I think they're trying to find a way to bring back Desmond.
Oh, nice. Yeah, they got to bring back him. To be fair,
Yeah.
that was the only time I did enjoy this weird side stuff was Desmond
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Assassin's
and-
Creed 2. That was like,
and
oh my goodness. Okay, that's fun.
having Nolan North do the voice work for that character was pretty cool.
Yeah, I am very sad I hated 3 so much that I never tried it. I never finished it because I actually would have liked to see the end of his arc, but I thought 3 was a terrible game. So I never got through the end of it. Yeah, man, I've enjoyed Valhalla. That's kind of been my go-to before Village came out because it was just like kind of fun and I could do a quest here or there. It mostly saved really well. It has some issues with quick resume where I lost some progress. Not exactly similar to you because I only lost maybe 40 minutes of progress, but it does suck. Sucks that they can't get that working because they need all their stupid online like, oh, buy from this shop, so we need to have that shop always updated. You know, it's like, I don't care about that stuff. Stop forcing that on me, Ubisoft. Stop forcing these live things that are super unnecessary.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah, I've played a little bit of Apex Legends. They started a new season. They introduced a new character called Valkyrie. They added arenas, which is a 3v3 mode, kind of like more traditional shooter, which has matches and kind of like a Counter-Strike buy system. I love that game. I can't play it enough. Like, I enjoy it so much, but, you know, I also love these single-player games. So I pretty much just try to do my daily quests in Apex, like do a certain amount of knocks, kills, etc. And then I'm pretty much always ready to like stop it for the day and go to Village or go to whatever else. Do you have any other games you've been playing or?
No, that's it. I mean, I know it's been a while since we chatted about games, so I had a whole bunch, man. What about you? What else have you been playing?
That's it, man. I mean, that's really it. Apex and Returnal, Valhalla, Judgment, Village. I'm sure I've played other stuff, but those are the main ones. Let's hit a quick break, and then we'll come back and we need to discuss how much news, if any, we're going to do today, because there is a lot of news. We might have to save it for another week, too. So give us a minute. Super BS. Super BS. Hey, ho, we're back and we're ready to run through some quick news. Probably just like touch on a lot of this stuff so we can be a little bit fast so we don't boggle your minds and blow your minds and make you sad all day by listening to us all the time. I want to talk about this. I meant to bring it up in Village discussion, but there was a parity clause that was signed for RE Village, meaning that like Sony was saying that the version of Village that came out on PS5 had to be as good as the PC and Xbox version. I guess this is a normal thing that happens, parity clause they're called, but I remember people not liking this idea when it was on Xbox One, and I just want to bring that up. I was curious what you thought about that.
So this is something that they've been doing long before like the Cyberpunk stuff happened, right?
Yeah. This has been something that's always happened, but if you remember for Xbox One, people were really upset that Xbox wanted a parity clause. They never got that. So like you're like, oh, it's so dumb Microsoft wants this because the PS4 is so much more powerful.
Oh,
but,
yeah. Well, any time it's like reversed on the Sony fanboys, of course there's going to be an outrage over it.
Yeah, it's wild to me, man. But yeah, that happened, and then Mass Effect Legendary Edition, which comes out this week. This is interesting, right? Following the parity clause, it's going to run at 120 frames per second on Series X and 60 frames per second on PS5. So otherwise, it will be running at the same 4K 60 on both Series X and PS5. A lot of people pointed out this is because the Xbox One X can run at 120 frames per second, but the PS4 Pro can only run at 60 frames per second. So this only
the Series X is superior.
Well, yeah, but it has to do because these are actually being played backwards compatible with a slight upgrade is what I mean. So it's running off the Xbox One X version versus a Series X native version. But I do find that really interesting. I don't have a 120 hertz TV, so I can't actually get to see any of this stuff. But I think it's fair because PS5 has significantly faster load times. So this idea where Xbox gets to run stuff at a higher frame rate, I think that's a cool trade-off. You know what I mean? Like, you know what you're getting. Because, like, in Village, the load times are about 3 to 5 seconds. In PS5, they're less than a second. So, like, it is nice when Series X can run things at a higher quality because you're losing that speed. But you're getting quick resume and stuff.
You have to make... you got to sacrifice something, right? And and this is one of those things, too, where, like, it just... The argument doesn't make any sense to me. Like, it doesn't significantly change the impact the game has.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why it's such a big deal.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm happy it's happening, but yeah, the comment would make you think like, oh man, this is the worst thing ever. Speaking of stuff where the commenters seem to love it, but it's actually kind of annoying. It's on the other side though, so people love it. Is Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade is going to be exclusive to PS5 for 6 months at minimum, they've said. So whether that's coming out to PC or Xbox, there's a good chance the Final Fantasy VII Remake does not launch on either of those platforms for at least till 2022 at the earliest, since Intergrade's coming out in June. So I just thought that's interesting because, people seem to be, okay with it when it's on the Sony front. People think that's fine, but when it's on the Xbox front, they obviously hate it. I just think that this whole thing is it is what it is. I'm fine with it, but I do think it's a dumb thing, and I think it's ridiculous that there's so much bias right now.
Like I get like having first party exclusives, but like this whole thing where you're going to a separate developer and saying, hey, I want this exclusive to the platform. Yeah, it's a good marketing strategy, but I think it's dumb. I don't like it because from the perspective of this company, you're isolating a whole group of fans. Xbox, and it's not like it would be that much of a threat because not that many people play Final Fantasy on the Xbox. It's a very select few. Most people play all RPGs on the PlayStation or PlayStation 4 or 5 or whatever you have. And I don't know, it seems more petty than it is like clever marketing maneuvers.
Yeah, I think it's just Sony has announced, because they're not in the position to really buy as many companies as Microsoft, that they are going to be buying exclusives like games. So that's going to be something that we deal with a lot, I think, this generation, is Sony doing something that seems underhanded and people praising them for it. So whatever, it is what it is. I'm very fortunate to be able to own a PS5 and a Series X. We're trying to get you a PS5 as well. But it is frustrating. I would prefer to play that game on my Series X and have my PS5 just for Sony exclusives. Which I guess they bought exclusivity for 6 months, so maybe that entails as too. This is an interesting rumor that came up, but in the Apple versus Epic lawsuit that happened, they found out a ton of stuff about all types of companies and all things. And one of the things they found, which I don't know how it was brought in, but is Microsoft expected Breath of the Wild 2 as well as a bunch of other Switch exclusives to launch last year. So they held back 3 of their games. There were supposed to be 2 that released last quarter and 1 that released early 2021. So I don't know what that means, but it does make everything very interesting. And this Apple versus Epic lawsuit is wild. If you get the chance to read into it, it's crazy.
Yeah, there's a ton of like things being leaked.
Oh,
just things. And I'm assuming they're things that weren't even meant to get out into the public at all.
Yeah, like Microsoft doesn't make profit on any of their consoles. That got leaked. There was so much stuff. It is literally insane.
Yeah.
That's, I think, how we found out that Apple might be making the Switch competitor, is because that was probably during that trial as well. Like they're trying to work on this. Cool news for Microsoft fans. Xbox is making Quick Resume even quicker, as well as a bunch of other improvements to that for the May update. So that's coming out. It sounds like today, but I haven't got it yet on my console. So stoked for that. The Microsoft also got FPS boost. We've talked about this before on the podcast. They added it to, let me see, I think there was 70 additional titles. Let me see. Oh, yes. So it was 70 titles, I think, additionally. So there's now 97 games that have up to 120 hertz, but at least 60 frames per second on Series X. It is wild, man. It's so cool. Seeing games like Dying Light and a bunch of others that ran kind of poorly on Xbox One are now all running at 60 hertz to 120. Even like Shadow of the Tomb Raider, game that I never beat, it got a 60 hertz patch. So stoked about that, man. That is just such a fun thing to go back and know I'm going to be playing these games with better frame rate and such. Hope they keep that work up. New news, Hitman dev is reportedly working on the Xbox fantasy game featuring dragons. So I think that's pretty cool. They're working on that James Bond game we know about.
It's fantasy. It has dragons.
Yeah, it is. It's King Arthur, actually, the one you like, the Guy Ritchie one. Yeah, man, I love that studio. I think Hitman 3 was a phenomenal game. It was a blast. I was playing that a ton until a bunch of other stuff came out. Probably would have been my game of the year if, there weren't a lot of other titles like it seemed like this year was going to be. But yeah, I really, really like it. I'm excited for both our James Bond property and this. Hopefully it's great. This one's an interesting one. Ni no Kuni 2, one of my favorite games. We talked about it a lot on Old Super BS. It was like, I think, my favorite game of 2018. That is potentially coming out to Switch, PS4, and PC. Or sorry, Switch. It's already on PS4 and PC. I hope it happens. There is an ESRB rating.
Ni no Kuni what?
2.
Okay.
Yeah. So the original Ni no Kuni is already on Switch. You can pick it up for cheap all the time. But Ni no Kuni 2 was a PS4 and PC title. So it's maybe going to come to Switch very soon. Game is so much fun, man. We've talked about this game a lot of times. I think we actually talked about it on Old Super BS. Skull and Bones. It is getting
finally get a release date?
Gets a new release window.
Ooh.
2022 is what they're expecting. Sometime late 2022. Ubisoft had a bunch of other stuff. I guess they have shown investors that Far Cry 6 is supposed to come out before 2022, before March 2022, so that should be sometime this year. And The Division Heartland, which I don't know what that is. It sounds like they have some stuff in the works. I feel like Ubisoft's in a weird place. They dropped a ton of titles at the end of last year, and I feel like they've been radio silent now. So I don't know what's going on with them exactly.
Yeah. So do you think that Skull and Bones, like they're keeping it as just like a ship-to-ship combat game, or do you think they're kind of opening it up to be more like an open world Assassin's Creed Black Flag style thing?
I think if they keep it a ship-to-ship combat game, it's going to fail immediately. So I think if they don't make it open world or like an open multiplayer, at least Sea of Thieves competitor where you can get off the island and do some hand-to-hand combat, it's done. It has no chance of surviving.
I agree.
EA or E3 is almost here, which is dope. Exactly 1 month from, I think, tomorrow. I think it's June 12th. EA Play is coming out as well, but instead of being right around E3 like they've always done, it's coming July 22nd, so more than a month after E3. Curious what's going to happen. I know that Battlefield announced that they're going to have some news in June. So it's weird that they announced that they're going to have some news in June, unless that's with the Microsoft presentation, which a lot of people have said it might be. So we'll see, man. Hopefully EA plays good. I don't play a ton of EA games, but, Fallen Order was dope, and I love Apex Legends. Yeah. So, and, I'm going to buy Mass Effect, so I guess I do play some of their stuff. Two articles that we'll probably just bunch together so we can actually discuss them for like 3 minutes before we go is, Sony's next-gen VR is, I guess, going to be really good. That's according to people like VR stuff. They say it's really great. A super high-res, good, resolution per eye. It's got a lot of inside-out tracking, feedback, all this great stuff, which could be neat. And just so you can talk about that as well, they said that the limited PS5 stock could continue into 2022. That has to do with the chip shortage. So, yeah, man, that is some weird stuff. I know we literally ran through this news. We didn't really even get to discuss all these articles. We could have talked probably for another hour about all this junk. Yeah. But what do you think about this PS5 stuff?
I don't know. It irritates me because I know that they are still moving forward with their PS5 exclusivity, right? So the people who are on PS4 still and can't get a PlayStation 5, they're just going to be stuck not being able to play some of these games until possibly 2023 or later. And by that time, there's probably going to be a loss of interest in them.
Yeah, I'm curious what's going to happen. I wonder if it will actually be that hard to find through next year. So that will be insane. I am excited actually for their VR. I wanted to play the Astro Playroom or whatever the VR title was called, Astrobot's Rescue Mission. And I didn't own a PS VR, the original. So if this sequel has that on it and I can, get on my PS5, I'll probably actually pick it up for the first time ever and try VR, only because I loved Astro's Playroom so much. Yeah. We'll see, man. I feel like Sony is in a weird spot. They haven't announced a ton of stuff. We're all pretty positive that God of War is not coming out this year, yet they still haven't delayed it officially.
We'll get the announcement when E3 gets here.
Yeah.
I do not see that coming out in 2021.
They haven't really even confirmed Horizon Forbidden West, so there's just a lot of stuff that is up in the air. In some ways, Nintendo and Microsoft are making the right call by playing their cards so close to their chest because they have less things they're likely to delay. Whereas Sony announced a bunch of stuff. My guess is there's going to be a couple delays. So, yes, my bro stuff. Hopefully it will not be 2 more weeks before we talk. We're hoping to get this back to being more regular. We are sorry. Life is crazy. Everything's rad, and Doge is the winner. So we will see you on the mañana, which means hopefully next week. That's what I've learned my Spanish to be. Mañana equals next week.
All right, good. Yeah, I mean, it's paying off.
Okay, it's good, man. I'm the best. See ya. Peace. Bye.
Oh, yeah.